Was there a fire somewhere? I felt a little uneasy and worried. Just then, and the live broadcast started. It seemed they were talking about the fire. I looked at the footage and saw that a building was burning with great intensity. I recognized the building. Then a message came on the TV. I saw the words on the message and my blood ran cold. It was the company where my wife worked. I wonder if my wife was okay. No matter how cold our relationship is, I still worry about her. With this in mind, I called my wife's phone. As if my prayers had been answered, my wife picked up the phone. "Julia, I'm glad you're okay." I was so happy to get through to her on the phone that my voice got louder. But my wife responded coldly.
What? What are you talking about?
Well, I was worried.
What's the matter? I'm at work. Don't call me.
What? Are you at work? Are you in the office?
What's the matter with you? Of course I am. I just told you I'm working. Are you crazy? I'm busy, so I'm hanging up now.
Hey. My name is Thomas. I'm a 28-year-old office worker. I work for a big company, and I've been working all my life. So I didn't have time to have a relationship. Before I knew it, I hit my 20s and I was still single. Everyone around me was getting married and having kids. I finally realized that I was late to the game. So I started to make an effort to look for a relationship. It was during this time that I met Julia, who later became my wife. We met at a blind date arranged by a friend. Julia was 2 years older than me, and she felt very mature. She was working for a well-known company and seemed to have a secure future. She seemed to be interested in me and started asking me out on dates, and we started dating. She would plan dates for me, and when we had at-home dates, she served me delicious home-cooked meals. After a year and a half of such fun love, I proposed to Julia. By that time, I was already crazy about her. I had always wanted to get married, and she accepted my proposal right away. Thus, we were to get married. I was about to turn 30 years old, so I was glad that we managed to get married while I was still in my 20s. My parents were actually quite worried about this, so they were relieved that I was getting married. After the wedding, we went on our honeymoon and started our life as a married couple. In the beginning, we were very much in love and had a happy honeymoon. Time passed so quickly, and we entered the 3rd year of our married life. By the way, there was still no child between us. Not that we weren't trying to make a baby, but we didn't see any signs of having one soon. But I believe that I can build a happy family with my wife, even if it is only just the two of us. My wife is a good person with a kind heart, although she sometimes acts selfishly. She also expresses her love to me, so I feel safe. However, she seems to be very busy at work these days and comes home late at night more and more often. Maybe that's why she's so tired, that she doesn't talk to me much at home anymore. You must be tired.
Yeah, is there any food?
I'll heat it up right now. I try to talk to her as much as I can, but my wife only speaks to me a little as necessary. She usually responds with a sentence or two asking me for dinner. The rest of the time, she lies on the couch, playing with her phone. While I wish she would spend a little more time with me, I also think that it can't be helped if she is tired from her busy work schedule. I used to have a hard job too until a while ago. When work is hard, I don't have time for other things. If that's the case, it's better to leave her alone than to force communication. I had these thoughts, and I tried to make a well-balanced and nutritious meal for my daily lunch and dinner. But then, something worrisome happened. I was scheduled to go on a business trip, but because of a typhoon, it had to be postponed. I had originally told my wife that I would not be home for 3 days. But when I received the notice that my business trip has been postponed, she had already left for work. Therefore, I had to contact her during her work hours that day. I emailed her and told her that my business trip was postponed and I reported that I would make dinner and wait for her. But I didn't get a reply back. I thought she was busy with work and decided to concentrate on my own work. But when I finished work, she still hadn't replied. She used to reply early even when she was at work, and even called me when we were both on break. But this time, she only read my messages but did not reply. Is she working that hard? Or maybe, after 3 years of marriage, our relationship is cooling down a bit. Feeling a little sad, I went to the supermarket on my way home from work to buy some ingredients for dinner. At any rate, I decided to cook a nutritious meal for my wife today. Today's menu consists of grilled chicken, steamed broccoli, and rice. It's my wife's favorite meal. I made everything and waited for my wife to eat it with me. However, no matter how long I waited, my wife did not come home. It was already around 9 p.m. I still hadn't heard from her, and there was no sign of her coming home. I was already hungry and at my limit. I decided to eat alone for now. It was 11 p.m. when my wife finally came home. Welcome back. You're back late. Did you have overtime?
Yes, that's right. But more importantly, your business trip suddenly got postponed?
Yeah, the typhoon hit the area where I was going on a business trip. You saw it on the news, right?
I see. It's not your fault, but it's a bit troublesome to let me know on the day of the trip. I might have plans to go out with friends or something.
I'm sorry. I didn't know what was going to happen. I got the call this morning.
I see.
My wife said that and started to get ready to take a shower. Huh? Aren't you going to eat?
Oh, I've already eaten, so I'll be fine.
What? With that, my wife went to the bathroom, but I texted her earlier. I told her I'd make dinner and wait for her. She had already read my messages, but she still ate out. I felt lonely and like I was being treated poorly. I don't mind if she eats out, but I want her to reply to me properly. I guess she thought even that amount of effort was too much trouble for her. After getting out of the shower, my wife took a beer from the fridge and drank it with relish. I got extremely angry. I laid down on the sofa, turned on the TV, and settled down in the living room. My wife would usually do this, so I thought I would do it today. My wife apparently noticed that I was angry.
You can pack the dinner you made me tomorrow for my lunch. I'll eat it.
She tried to put me in a good mood. I didn't answer her and played with my phone. My wife looked uncomfortable and went back to her room. I wish she would at least reflect a little on her behavior. With this in mind, I sat on the sofa and watched TV. A few minutes later, my wife came into the living room and said,
I'm going for a walk.
She suddenly said, What? At this hour? It was already midnight. Why is she going outside now? When I asked her that, she replied,
I haven't been getting enough exercise lately, and I've been working late, so I thought I'd get some fresh air. Tomorrow is Saturday, so I have the day off. My wife started to get ready, with a kind of happy look on her face. Why was my wife, who hates exercising, suddenly getting ready for a workout? I thought she was acting suspiciously and decided to secretly follow her. And my fears turned out to be true as soon as I started following her. Despite my concern, my wife was in a happy mood and she walked around. She stopped in front of a park a short distance from the house. Then, she looked around and texted someone on her phone. I wondered who on earth she was talking to. A few minutes later, a car came and stopped in front of my wife. My wife opened the door and sat in the passenger seat. There was a street light just shining on the car, and I could see a person in the driver's seat. I couldn't make out who the person was, but it was obviously a man, and he was wearing fancy clothes. The man seemed to be having a pleasant conversation with my wife, and then the car drove away. I stood there for a while, stunned. My wife was having an affair. A little while later, I happened to run into a friend of mine after a drinking party, and she invited me back for another drink, so I'll be home tomorrow morning.
I got a text that said this. Now, I knew she was hiding something. She had no idea she was being watched by me. After that, everything my wife did started to look suspicious. I wondered if she was really working overtime when she came home late at night. Is she on her phone all the time talking to that man? Our conversations are getting less and less frequent. I talked to my friend about this. My friend advised me to hire a private investigator to investigate and clarify the situation. I thought to myself, if I don't do something about it, I won't be able to do my job, and decided to have an investigation done. While I was waiting for the results of the investigation, it was really tough. My wife was as cold to me as ever. Every time I look at my wife's face, I see that man. I wanted to clarify the situation as soon as possible and decide what to do. Then something unbelievable happened. It was Saturday, and my wife had gone to work early in the morning. I was wondering if she was really working on her day off. I decided to clean the house thoroughly to calm myself down. I started cleaning things I hadn't cleaned much before, and I couldn't stop. I was able to do a lot of cleaning in the morning, and then I became a little tired, so I ate lunch and watched TV to relax. Then I heard the sirens of a fire truck in the distance. The sound got closer and closer, and louder. Then, just as I thought they were passing by, I heard the sirens again. It was not one fire truck, but two, then three, and so on. Was there a big fire somewhere? I felt a little uneasy and worried. Just then, the news came on TV, and a live broadcast began. They seemed to be talking about the fire. The images showed that a building was burning with great intensity. It is a building in the city. This is... What? I recognized that building. Then, a message came on the TV, and when I saw the words on the message, my blood ran cold. It was the company where my wife worked. Firefighters were working hard to put out the fire. I could also see people evacuating the building for a moment. I wondered if my wife is all right. Even though our relationship was on the rocks, I was still worried about her. I hope she is safe and sound. With this in mind, I called my wife's cell phone. I prayed that she was able to escape from the fire and be saved. The call rang out. Then, as if my prayers had been answered, my wife picked up the phone. "Julia, I'm so glad you're okay." I was so happy to get through to her that my voice got louder and louder. But my wife responded coldly.
What are you talking about?
"Well, I was worried."
What's the matter? I'm at work. Don't call me.
"What? Are you at work? Are you in the office?"
What's the matter with you? Of course I am. I just told you I'm working. Are you crazy? I'm busy, so I'm hanging up now.
"Hey." With that, my wife hung up the phone. I understood that my wife was not involved in the fire. At the same time, I understood that she hadn't gone to the office either. That must mean she is at that man's place. I felt my love for my wife fade away at once. I didn't want to leave with her anymore. I immediately started packing my belongings. I don't even need the furniture and appliances. I know. I'll sell everything. I contacted a buyer. They told me that they had some free time and could come to my place for an on-site evaluation. I asked them to come right away. I had some good furniture and appliances, so I was able to sell them for a fair amount of money. The furniture and appliances I sold were things I bought and kept when I was single. I had no problem selling them without asking my wife about it. I felt a little better when I saw the empty room. Then, I looked in the mailbox and saw that the results of the investigation from the investigator had just been delivered. I decided to leave the house with the results of the investigation. I called my parents and explained the situation. And I loaded my stuff into the big car that my parents came in and went back to my parents' house for a while. I did not hear from my wife at all that day. That meant she was spending the night with her lover. I started looking for a new place to live alone. I finally heard from my wife the next day.
Hey, Thomas, what did you do with your stuff? All your stuff, your furniture, everything is gone.
Of course, I left that house.
Huh? What do you mean?
I mean that I'm done with you.
I don't understand. Why? Do you think you're allowed to do that?
How can you say that? I couldn't help but laugh. I can't believe she thinks I'm this stupid.
What are you laughing at? I'm serious.
Oh, I see. I know you spent the night with another man. When I said this, my wife choked on her words.
What? Of course not. Don't say that. I worked late at the office yesterday. You saw me off when I left for work, didn't you?
I was dumbfounded. How far was she going to keep this a secret? Your office building. It was caught in a pretty bad fire yesterday afternoon. So how did you manage to work late into the night? My wife could only say foolish things from here on out.
What are you talking about? Thomas, you're trying to upset me by saying random things, aren't you? What do you want with such lies?
You're such a pain. Why don't you check with the company? It was all over the news yesterday. They said the building where your company is located caught fire. So I guess they called you yesterday afternoon. When I said that, my wife suddenly became silent. Tell me, how did you do your job while the fire was burning?
Well, that's...
My wife had no words to respond to me. I have evidence of your affair gathered by a professional.
What?
Let's talk about the rest of this through our lawyers. I'm going to ask you to pay me alimony.
No. Wait a minute. It wasn't anything serious with that man. I don't want a divorce. Please forgive me.
My wife apologized many times, but it was too late. I'm sorry, but I can't forgive you anymore. You'll have to talk to a lawyer from now on.
Thomas, please.
I hung up the phone. After that, I demanded a divorce through my lawyer, and I demanded alimony from my wife and her lover. The divorce was finalized on the grounds that my wife was responsible for the affair, and she could not get away with it, based on numerous counts of evidence. I was able to get a reasonable amount of alimony from both of them. My wife's lover was a classmate from her college days. He was also a married man. Therefore, both he and my wife were charged double alimony, and both of them had to bear a considerable amount of debt. Incidentally, my wife's colleagues found out that she was having an affair at a time when the company was in trouble because of a fire, and they started to treat her coldly. However, since she has to pay back the debt, she can't quit working. She continues to work while feeling ashamed of herself. Well, I don't feel sorry for her because she deserves it. On the other hand, I moved to a single person's apartment and I recently got a pet cat. The cat is very cute and heals me every time I come home. My job is stable and my income is good. I've been thinking recently that it would be good to stay single. If you're going to have an affair, you need it to be completely undetectable to your husband. Julia was acting too suspiciously to begin with. The decisive factor, though, was that the lie was exposed during the fire. Even without that, she would have been exposed. In short, she was a scumbag. I am glad that Thomas got rid of such a woman. For now, enjoy your single life. Thank you for watching until the end. How did you like today's story? Please subscribe to our channel if you like. See you in the next story!